The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to all, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. What profit is there for one to gain the whole world, yet lose or forfeit himself?" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So now we have these few days before the first Sunday of Lent. You might think that Lent should begin really on the first Sunday of Lent, but the Sundays of Lent are not regarded as penitential days, if you put it that way, or days in which we necessarily do penance. They're sort of free days. I remember when I was a child and I'd give up maybe sweets for Lent, I'd save up my sweets all week, and then I'd have go to town on Sunday, because Sunday wasn't really a day of Lent in my little mind. And so we have 40 days in Lent, and that's why we have these few days before the first Sunday. And the 40 days, when the Israelites spent in the desert, or the 40 years I meant, and then the 40 days when Christ spent in the desert. Now, getting back then to the readings this morning and the Gospel, how does that apply to you and I today? Because in the Gospel this morning, in the first reading, they're talking about dying, and you got to choose between life and death, or dying, giving your life up. What really does that mean in our lives? Well, put it this way: it's not as some terrorist organizations call for people to become suicide bombers. It's not, Jesus doesn't mean anything like that. But what he's really talking to is dying to the self. And that really explains the word daily. Because whether we are prepared to admit it or not, the self, what is good for me, plays a big part in all our lives. And so, for example, don't you find, and I find in my life that you're doing something, or you're busy doing something, and somebody calls you or wants you to do something, and your initial reaction is, I'm busy at the moment. Can't she go away, or can't he go away? But then when you can say to yourself, well, okay, this is where Jesus wants me to be now. Or when you're in the middle of something and the phone goes, and the last thing you want to do is talk to somebody on the phone, or somebody might be needing something, to be able to say, this is where Jesus wants me to be now. In other words, to be prepared to inconvenience ourselves. The opposite to that is people, and this is where This is where we lose our life in a bad way. It's where we live just for ourselves and we never want to get involved or reach out to anybody, and we just live in our own tiny little world. Well, that person isn't really living. That person. And so that explains, Jesus says, if you live like that, to save your life, if you spend your whole life trying to save your life, what's good for me, and you're closed, then Jesus says, you lose your life. But when you're open and are prepared to make an effort and to give of yourself, then that is life. You find real life. So hopefully in a few words that makes some kind of sense. But it's something you got to think about and work out for yourselves.